We're cooking. We're cooking. All right. So we were talking about parse last time, right? Or were we talking about?
Yeah.
Did I start talking about parse already?
Well, you did the cocoapods.
Okay. Did we actually do the cocoapods install and that
Yeah,
stuff? Okay. Gotcha. All right. So let me figure out where we're currently sitting here. So let's do history, grep for CD. Did I just drag it in there? I'm looking for our dice roller.
Yeah, you passed it. It's up a little bit.
Oh, here it is. All right, so let's just look at our pod file here. So inside of our pod file, we have the parse project that we brought in here. And so once we actually run, and actually I'm going to go ahead and do a pod update because there actually is a new version of parse that's come out. So we get a live view at the advantage of using cocoapods. So we'll let this guy cook. So parse 1.10 was 1.9.1, which actually then did I already copy stuff in from that starter project from parse?
Yeah.
All right, so something's going to be broken. We'll fix it. All right, so I'm going to go ahead, and so that doing that gives us this new workspace guy here, right? So I'll go ahead and we'll open that. All right, so as of right now, because of the new parse build, we're going to get a single error message inside of app delegate. Well, at least I think we're going to get a build error. Yeah, we do. Good. All right. So this is the build error we get now. It's because there's no longer a function called set public read access. So it's default ACL dot public read access is equal to true. All right. Huh? No. This is just our project, our Coco, or our yeah, just our Xcode project. Yep. So basically, we updated when we ran CocoaPods update, or we ran pod update. It installed a new version of parse into this project, and that new version of parse had a library update. And one of them, it dumped an old thing. And the reality is we wouldn't even have had the problem if we had followed parse's original instructions. But if you remember, I opened up their test. The old way of doing it, they provide like a starter Swift project for parse that already has all the crap built into it. And I didn't use that project with the parse stuff because I used cocoapods for bringing our parse project in. But I did steal the contents of their app delegate that had all these variables and stuff like that in here. The only thing we absolutely need is just this one line right here. That's all you actually need in here. Just letting your application, well, that along with import parse at the top. So import parse and this one line is all you need to have your app tell parse, I am linked to a certain application. All this other fluff in here is stuff we're going to experiment with for push notifications and that kind of stuff. Okay, so that's our punchline with this. So we would not have had a compile error had we just followed parse's instructions and I not drug a bunch of stuff in from their old starter project. Out of curiosity, let's go back to parse.com. I want to know if they have a new starter project.
I'm sure they have to.
That hasn't been my experience. in my experience, they have a couple of different teams that work out of there. And sometimes the left hand doesn't know what the right hand is doing. And so this is our app, right? Let's just go to quick start here. Let's just see if that project has the old bug in it or not. It may also, if it doesn't have the old bug, it's probably still, would probably still compile because it probably still has the older parse SDK distributed with it. All right, but in any case, while that's cooking here, what we did last time, so all this stuff inside of app delegate kind of unimportant for us except for just this line right here that says we're going to let our application, we'll let the parse SDK that's embedded in our application know about the parse app that we're associated with and specifically who we are. All right, so these are the two unique identifiers that our app needs to talk to this specific project on our parse.com account. Okay. So then we went into, what do we do, main TVC? We didn't view did load. Yep, so this code right up here, this created a brand new object in parse. We set a couple of variables for this guy, and then we told it to save in the background, then we just spit out object has been saved. Fair enough? Okay, so when I think we saw, let's go back here. If I go into core for our dice roller, we'll see our test object here. Here's Mike and Bar. Each one has a unique identifier that automatically gets generated, so we must have run our application twice at this point because we have two objects that were created. So that's what that little chunk of code did for us. Okay, that proves that our setup to parse is working. So now let's look at authentication. We're going to want to have the ability to authenticate. We're going to kind of create a an interesting model with our app. I'm not sure it's necessarily a secure model, but we're going to take it. So some of these things we're kind of forcing onto our dice roller because we want it to be secure. All right, but in the end, I do have the plan that we're going to make this app kind of cool. We're going to put it out onto the App Store with all of us as co-authors. No, I don't. I think we should probably just make it free and see if we can do in-app purchases for helping people pay tuition. We'll see. But in any case, we're going to continue to build on this. But what I'd like to do is we're going to have the ability to register for an account, an ability to log in on the iPhone side. But instead of logging in on the iPhone side, if you are wearing your watch that's linked to this, that's linked to the app, you can actually just maybe tap on the watch and say log in, and it'll automatically get you in, kind of like your pass key. The watch is the key. We can do fingerprint things as well, but let's just practice with having the watch communicating with the app like we've already done, but also leveraging the cloud login stuff. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go to Docs. So one of the cool things here, let's check this here just real quick since it's already open. Oh, it does. It says 1.10. So let's see if they changed at appdelegate.swift. Yep. Very interesting. I wonder if they gave any explanation as to why why they just dumped that function, seeing as though they're still using the public. I mean, it's essentially they dumped a setter. Just a set this public variable to something. Whatever. All right, so we're going to look at the documentation. One of the nice things about parse, but also something we need to keep in mind, I'm going to go to guide here, is, although I am impressed with them right here with what they just did, is they're very well documented, but sometimes their documents are a little bit out of date. They give a lot of code examples. We're going to be able to see that we can steal a lot of stuff from this and get a lot of the cloud functionality into our apps immediately. But every now and then something is written like in Swift 1.2 instead of Swift 2.0. So like println, that kind of stuff. So for the most part, it's done really well, but just be aware that sometimes their code examples are a little bit old, but not very much.
Well,
So
now you could use in Swift 2.0, you could just highlight it and use bring up to current in Swift.
okay, well, whatever. I mean, you're usually talking about one line or less is the punchline. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and we want to learn how to make a user. So here's Objective-C example. Here's the Swift example. So for example, here, actually I think it's in their login. Sorry, on Swift. Oh, doesn't it say it in there? Somewhere in here there was a println, I thought. Not whatever. So signing up for an account, we have this thing in Parse called a PF user. Okay, so Parse has built into it the ability to deal with user accounts, and you can log in multiple ways. We can log in using Parse's authentication method using a normal PF user, or we can actually link a PF user with a Facebook account. So you've dealt with mobile applications where your option is to log in with your Facebook credentials, that kind of thing. So we'll be looking at that as well, and Parse has that built in. But we're going to start off just using Parse's normal plain Jane model for this. All right, so we're going to need a screen that allows you to register. So Parse's registration requires at least a username and a password and an email. Optionally, you can have additional stuff if you want to keep additional information about one of your Parse users. All right, so we'll just do something that allows us to do username, password, and email. So we're going to have a registration screen, and then it'll take us back to the login screen and all that jazz. Now, something interesting to kind of be aware of here is that Parse does have a drop-in module that automatically has the login registration process kind of all built in. It's branded Parse, so if you were going to put it into your application, it's difficult for you to like make it look the way you want it to look. But as easy as this stuff is, we're just going to build our own around this. I like having more control over it, but kind of choose your poison, I guess. So we're going to go into our code here. And one thing I'm going to do that I've started doing in other projects is, let's see, first of all, we'll do that here in a little bit. So we're going to start off by having our login page. So I'll drag a view controller out here. And I'm going to resize it. And historically, we've resized them to iPhone 4. Okay, I'll just say it out loud since, it is kind of a small screen. But actually, is it 4 or is it
4.7? Yeah.
Oh, so we've been doing it for iPhone 6. Yeah. All right. Something I've started doing is iPhone 5.5.
So that it shrinks down instead of...
Yeah, and I'll kind of show you how this model works. It's maybe kind of a little bit bad on here. Is there a way for me to shrink this? Yeah, see, that guy's not...
Can't move around.
Yeah, we're going to keep it as the 4.7 just for now. But just be aware that I've been doing it in 5.5 on iMacs and stuff just because it's... then I use what's called auto layout. So we have something here. I can click down here and say reset to suggested constraints. And now it'll look right on multiple phones, look decent on multiple phones. But for right now, we don't necessarily care about that. So we're going to give ourselves a login screen. So let's go ahead and put a table view on here, or I'm sorry, a navigator, nav bar, dealy flippy thing. Go to the grid view. Okay, we're going to call this guy login VC. He's going to be our code behind for this. And we'll give ourselves a username. And this is going to be username. And we don't even look at our notes. We just put it all into our calculator so we can cheat. All right, so username and then password. Like that, except we're going to make the password box secure. So it's going to be a secure text entry. Okay. And then let's go ahead and create our code behind for this guy.
Don't you want an email on there as well?
No, this is
No,
the login.
just the login.
Yeah, the register
Sorry,
page will need
register.
the email. All right, so we'll go to new file, Cocoa Touch class. This guy's going to be a view controller, and we'll call him login VC. Create. All right, and then just before, so we don't forget, I'm going to drag this guy to the top. Let's go back to our main storyboard and let this guy know that he's one of those dudes, not a plain Jane UI view controller. So now he's a login VC. Okay. Now, let's go ahead and put in our code behind stuff. Get that down a line there. Let's give ourselves outlets for these guys. We'll call this username TF. Connect. This is password TF. Connect. I forgot to give us a actual login and register button. So let's go and do that. So these we're going to put in a bar button item up here. And we'll call this guy register. We'll put another one over here called login. And then we want to go ahead and hook those guys up as actions. We'll put this after view did load. It's going to be an IB action. Register button pressed. And then we'll do the same thing for login. Be an action. Login button pressed. Okay. All right, so that's going to be that guy. And have I already shown you become first responder, where the keyboard slides up on its own? All right, well here, let's look at it here. I'm going to change the start point for our application to this guy. All right, and just for right now, in case we're testing something old, I'll go ahead and just throw a button on here that says old app. Just so we have a way of getting to that screen, since it's no longer the start screen. But we really want to mess with login stuff right now. Okay, so now we're going to need a register page, but let me go ahead and let me run this thing real quick so you can see what it does currently. Oh, very nice.
When it's your sized.
What
Story of my life.
we can do
You
is
should grow.
Hmm?
You should grow more
You gotta make me grow more.
on your device. Go. It's hardware. Go on your device. Oh wait, hold on. Go to.
there's got to be a zoom somewhere. Is it window?
It's something weird, I think.
Scale? About
Yeah.
25%.
Hey.
All right. So if I click on username there, the keyboard slides up, but we'd really like to have that keyboard slid up by default, right? So we could just start typing on our, because remember, we're not always going to have our keyboard available to us, and that's something to keep in mind when you're designing apps using the simulator, is you can turn off that keyboard, so it no longer comes up automatically, or it no longer shows up on the screen. Since we're probably not going to tap out our response here, we're probably going to just use our normal keyboard to type in. But what often happens when you don't have this guy being a placeholder on the screen, you start putting buttons and stuff down here, not realizing that you're covering them up. And then you either have to have the window slide up when the keyboard pops up or reorganize your screen, but just something to be aware of. But let's go ahead and make this guy show up right off the bat. So we'll go into Login VC.
The keyboard slide up over the login button.
And then we'll go in here. And so inside of UDidLoad, we'll say username TF dot becomes first or become first responder. So that simulates us tapping in the text field, which will make the thing slide up right away. So now the keyboard will pop up when the screen first launches. All right, so that's there.
How do you put a button on the keyboard? Like if you want the keyboard to go away and push done, you know what I mean?
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Let's see.
Is there an easy way to do that?
There's a way to do that. Let's see how easy it is right now. You can choose the keyboard associated with a text field. Oh, I'm in the wrong place here. There we go.
Keyboard type.
Auto enable return key. Does that make that go down by default? Let's see. No, apparently not. So, I mean, we can certainly make a button that does this.
Can you just see what the keyboard types do on that?
Oh, yeah. So they're going to give you, so here, where the,
Keyboard type.
where? Oh, right here. So, yeah, so 1 is going to be everything. This one's numbers and punctuation, number pad, blah, blah, blah. So what we can do is here, I'll just do it in the register button for right now, since we're about to code in there anyways. We'll go here. And actually, we're not even going to need the register button for what we're going to end up doing. So I didn't even need this IB action. But we'll use it for right now. So I'll go ahead and say self.usernametf.resign first responder. And that should make the keyboard go away when I hit the register button. So there's keyboard there, register button makes it go away. Make sense? So that's programmatically how you can do it, but I think there's a way well, I thought there might have been a way if you make this guy automatic, but that...
So you just have to tap anywhere else on the screen besides one of those boxes.
You can make that work too because you can do touches received for the app, for the screen as a whole, but then the code behind that would be this exact same thing, you know. But you would actually have to make them all resign it. You know, so everything would have to resign first responder. In fact, I wonder, can you...
Resign all responders.
Let's just see if we can tell this view controller to resign first responder and if that just covers everything. Yeah, it seems like it does. Tap outside what?
Or if you tap just outside of one of the boxes.
It works if I tap.
Anyway.
Oh, I see what you're saying. No. I mean, because I linked it to this button. It's an IB action for that.
Oh, I see.
We can write a thing called touches began that allows us to recognize whenever any place on the screen was touched. And we'll do something like that later. But bottom line is, you can make the keyboard go away with a resign first responder. All right, and I'm going to go ahead and get rid of our register button Oh, the button's going to stay, but I don't need the action because we're going to actually just have it take us to another screen, so we can just do our control click for that. So let me go disconnect that before I forget. All right, so here's the register button there. So now that guy is gone. Okay, so now let's give ourselves a new screen. So we'll put the register screen up here. Okay, and we're going to go ahead and make the register button go up here. And then I'll throw a nav bar on here. We'll call this guy register VC. And let's go ahead and build that class here. It's going to also be a UI view controller. Register VC. Click next. Let that guy know that he's now a register VC, not a normal UI view controller. Okay, and register VC is going to read in a username and a password and also a email. And also let's do a confirm password as well. Just to kind of do this the way it would usually work. It's got to be email, and then let's put a bar button item up here. One is going to be cancel. The other one is going to be create. All right. Now, one thing that we're often tempted to do is control click cancel back to this screen. But by doing that, what we actually do is we create another instance of that first screen, and we don't want that. We want to make this screen that was popped up, we want him just to go away. All right, so we are going to need an IB action for our cancel as well as our create. So let's go ahead and give ourselves outlets for our 4 text fields and then actions for our 2 buttons. Okay, so this is going to be a username TF. Here, we're actually going to make life a little easier here. This will be password TF. This will be confirm password TF. And this guy will be email TF. All right, we'll have to hook up those last 3, and then let's go ahead and give ourselves an IB action. Put it right after view did load for our cancel button. Cancel button pressed. It's an action. Similarly, I have one for the create. IB action. Create button pressed. Connect that. All right, so let's close this. Let's go ahead and hook up our other outlets. So here's our email TF right here. Whoa, hello. Well, I guess we'll do confirm password first. And then email. And then password. Okay. And then we already have the actions set up. So if we run this right now, our register button should take us to the register screen, but we have no way of getting back. So there's our register screen. We want the cancel button to make this screen go away and have take us back to this screen. But we also want the register screen to automatically have the keyboard pop up for us. So we'll do that in view did load. So that'll become first responder in register VC. Put that up here underneath the login. All right, so inside view did load, we'll say self.username tf.become first responder. So now that guy will pop up. And then inside of our cancel button, we'll say self.dismiss view controller animated true with no completion. No completion block. What are these blocks called again? What's the vocabulary word for? I'll type it in here again. For this type of thing. What's that guy called? It's closure. That would be another good quiz question again, seeing as though only one person answered. Just FYI.
So number 4 on that list still,
Huh?
You said number 4 on that list still?
Yeah. Maybe 5.
Oh,
I have to think. You are ahead of Haxton.
well, that's saying
I don't know who isn't. Did you miss the what we're talking about?
a little bit.
What are we playing over there? Are you doing work?
Yeah.
Yeah, he said he's doing work. All right, so anyways, this will dismiss the view controller. We won't actually use a closure for our completion block because we have nothing special to do there. So now this guy should pop away. So hopefully we're seeing that writing stuff for the iPhone is pretty similar to writing stuff for the watch, where that skill set translates straight across. Same thing would be true for Apple TV. So we'll go to register, then we change our mind, that guy goes away. Actually, that's interesting, didn't we?
Is that set up as the first responder still?
Well, each page should have its own first responder. Oh, it's in view did load. We need to have it on view will appear. Okay, so because this view, this main view here, login VC, doesn't just show up potentially once. He shows up over and over and over again, potentially, right, as we just keep canceling. So right now, inside of view... Oh, did we actually take it out? Did I? All right, well, good. We were going to move it anyways. So we'll go ahead and do an override. Func view will appear. And we'll say self.username tf.become first responder. I don't remember taking it out. All right. So now every single time it's about to appear, it should pop that keyboard up, as opposed to view did appear. So there it is. It was about to appear, showed up. Go to register. Looks reasonable enough. Okay, so now let's actually register for an account. So we'll go back over here to the documentation. So signing up, it's going to require us to first create a blank. Well, let's just steal the code and then I'll walk through it. So I'm going to have to import parse here. And then inside of, oh, actually we will import it there, but I actually want to work inside of register VC right now. So we'll import parse. All right, now down here in the create button pressed, we're going to create a brand new user. Then we're going to start filling in values for these users. But before we actually do this stuff, we need to make sure they filled out our form correctly, right? Gave us a username, it gave us a password, confirmed their password, gave us an email. The two passwords have to match. All those things, right? So let's just write some, if statements to deal with that first. That way we can learn how to do an alert view on the iPhone side. We haven't done those yet on the iPhone, have we? Okay. So I'm going to do a, let's see, var AV. Let's let you just do this. Var message is equal to the empty string. If self.username tf dot we're about to rage on strings again.
Rage against the string.
Dot text dot characters dot count is equal to 0. If that's true, we'll say message is equal to, you must enter a username. Else if,
What's the question mark?
it's going to want me to unwrap it, but it is an optional. Fix that. All right. So this is the password one, right?
Don't you want that in just a separate if?
Yeah, I do. Thank you. They didn't end. Well, actually, do we? We don't. We don't. I want it to go in order. So we're going to check to see if the username wasn't entered. If it is, we're going to fall through. It'll make sense in a second. If message is still empty string, that means there wasn't a problem. All right, so we'll be able to ask that here at the bottom. So if the password doesn't have anything in it, you must enter a password. If confirm password, you must confirm the password.
Will that check to see if they match?
Nope, not yet.
Okay.
This guy, this is email, TF. You must enter an email address. And we won't go as far as checking to make sure the format they put in there was correct for the email address. Else if self.password tf.text is not equal to self.confirm password.text. If those guys are not equal to each other, we're going to say passwords did not match.
Caps too. Yelling at.
Okay, so assuming that getting through this little minefield we created here without changing the contents of message, that is message.characters.count is Swift strings. All right, is equal to 0. So if message.characters.count is not equal to 0, that means there was a problem. And if there was a problem, we want to go ahead and we're going to create a let AV equal UI alert view. Difference between these guys? I don't know that there necessarily is. So the title for this guy is going to be error. Message will be our message. Delegate will be self, although in this case we're not going to handle it, so I'll set it to nil. Cancel button title is going to be okay. other button titles will be nil. Swift thinks he's so helpful. All right, more button titles will be nil.
Why's it gotta be a he?
All right. Then we're going to say self.present view controller. Oh, I said presented. Present view controller. And let's see. Actually, I'm doing this the wrong way. No, see, alert views have changed. This used to be called a UI. What's it called? A UI alert view, and then you would tell that alert view to show itself. But now they do it as a modal presentation. But I thought there's a couple of different ways you can present it, either as a pop-up in the middle of the screen, or I guess let's just try the self.present view controller, AV animated true completion nil. I think that's gonna. Which argument? Actually, other button titles is going to be a list. Oh, hold on. That was, I think we got the deprecated thing I was talking about. UI alert view was deprecated. UI alert controller, that's what I wanted. Oh, which makes sense since we're presenting a view controller. I'm sorry. Yep. No, this is let AV is equal to UI alert view. Oh, just alert controller, right? All right, and this guy is going to be this guy. Title is error. Message is our message, and this is the preferred style. So UI alert controller style. UI alert controller style dot alert. There's kind of two. We can use alert or action sheet. We'll look at both of them. Then we'll present that alert view. Animated true, completion. We're actually going to put a completion in here in a second because I don't think this gives us a go away button now, which is kind of interesting. But we'll see this in action. So let's not fill in our code. So we'll go to register. We'll hit create. It's going to yell at us, error, you must enter a username. And there's nothing, there's no way for us to get that guy to go away. So punchline for us is we would have to restart this, but we can actually do. I know we're running out of time, but I'll go ahead and put this code in for here. I'm going to make it stay up for like, I don't know, 3 seconds or something. Just pop up real quick and kind of go away. It's called a toast on the Android side of things. But for your homework, get authentication working using Parse's documentation for registering and for the login. Okay? Remember, when you go to bring this down onto your computer, the first thing you'll have to do is go into the terminal, get into the directory it's at, and do a pod update. That guy. Because you won't have all those files that we currently have in there. You're going to have just enough to have the project, but you're going to need to update your your project to have all those pods installed. All right. So when you pull it down to your machine, you'll have to do a pod update. So go back and watch what we did near the end of class last time for installing cocoapods and that stuff. All right.
And we can't just, we have to switch over the key, right?
Switch the key to our key, so we're not sending it to you.
Yeah, you got to get your project. Yeah, that's true.
So
That's true.
if we download yours, we have to switch over.
Well, yes, that's you won't have to because you.
Pull from yours.
Right, you will have to if you want to go in and check for the user and make sure he actually got created. If you could print out what came back.
So if I have that ID, could I send stuff to your parse thing now?
Oh yeah, definitely. So I mean, the point is that you won't be able to log into Parse and see the project, but you can see that account was created, and then once you logged in successfully on the other side, you'll be able to see here's the object ID of the user that logged in. So you'll be able to prove to yourself it worked.
That's something you did do or didn't do. Did you tie the login button on the home screen to logging in, or do you have to do that?
You have to do that.